Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining me on HogvilleNET YouTube Live again. I had sideways head for something went wrong with the original live, so I had to delete that one and jump right back on about 5 minutes late. But thank you for joining me again. I'm your host, Kevin McPherson. It's a Saturday afternoon HogvilleNET YouTube Live with some intel recruiting and schedule. So we thought maybe let's come on a Saturday. It's been a few weeks since we've done that. So anybody joining me today, thank you. You think this isn't basketball season, but there's something relevant with the Hoop Hogs. I say it's every day of the year. We've got Arkansas staff out and about this weekend for what's another live eval period. Um, another live evaluation period for college Division I head coaches and assistant coaches, the staffs that members that are eligible to go out and recruit and do these live evals. And Arkansas's got several coaches out on the road. One in particular, I think this is significant. Assistant coach Chuck Martin, the staff did alert me on Friday. I did tweet this out that Martin is in Switzerland for the FIBA U19 World Cup. Four of the members of the 12 player team for Team USA are priority recruiting targets, 5-star, top 10 rated players for the 2026 class looking ahead. Now, there's also a multitude of international players, especially specifically matching up against Team USA during this live eval part this weekend in the group play. We're going to talk a little bit about that, today's first game and the results there and how the Arkansas Targets performed, but also some international players that between the staff and also talking to one of my international prospect, what I consider one of my better sources when you talk about international players, some names maybe to keep an eye on, and one already specifically that I know Arkansas has some level of interest in. So the other thing about this is that while most of these international players are likely that we're going to talk about in the next few days, I'll bring up 2 or 3 names today, in addition to the Team USA guys. Several of these players, all of these players would be eligible to come to the United States and play college basketball as freshmen this upcoming season. And we know Arkansas's got a roster spot. However, my international source, told me that most likely most of these players will wait it out and come in and be part of class of 2026. When you look at some of the player profiles for some of these, some of them aren't eligible for the NBA draft until 2028, even 2029. And this is U19 play. Some of these prospects are, the youngest age I have on any of these guys that I'm going to talk about today is 18 years old in terms of international play. So it's not like they're so young that they couldn't come over and do it in 2025. But we'll go through a little bit. I know it's clear as mud, but that's how it is with international players. And so we'll look at some of the ones that played today, who Team USA matched up with Australia with a big 15-point win. We're also going to talk scheduling, yet another high major opponent that is a household name that Arkansas has been efforting since Calipari took the job last year to get on the schedule. It's a little unclear whether or not this matchup will actually happen in the upcoming season. And then I've got a tidbit, I will say it's intel, about one of the opponents that we think we know about, we're pretty sure about in the non-conference schedule. Just a bit of an update there as well, if we can call it that. But let's get right down to it. Team USA, U19, FIBA World Cup. It's going down in Switzerland. Game 1 today in group play, 88-73 over Australia. Some really good players for Australia. Dyson Daniels' younger brother. He is 17 years old. And he's opted not to play college basketball. He didn't have a great game today, but he's going to play with the rising stars in that Australian NBL Pro League for a year. And then we'll see what happens, or I don't know for how long, but I know he will this next season. Jacob Furphy, whose brother played college basketball last year and off to the NBA, 2 years ago and off to the NBA. But Jacob Furphy, big 24 points for Australia, tried to stay close to the Australian national team. But Furphy had a big game, 24 points, knocked down some threes. He's headed to UConn and Dan Hurley. But the player I want to talk about before we get to the Team USA guys that stood out to me, and I've been hearing about this guy. So between the international source and Arkansas staff, and again, Chuck Martin's the assistant coach who's over there for now, Roman Salupa, Roman spelled like you think it is, Salipa, Siulepa, a 6'7", 230-pound combo forward. This guy can play right away for anybody. Now, I'm told that he may already be committed and or even signed to a college in the U.S. The talk has been for a while that Pitt and the ACC has done the work and likely to land him, but there's uncertainty about that. And I'm certain that Arkansas staff is impressed with him and has some curiosity about where his situation and status is headed moving forward. And you talk, so he's going to be. I mean, if he's signed and sealed already to Pitt or somebody else, Pitt's what I'm hearing. If that's the case, then he's going to be on somebody's roster in this upcoming season. But he would be a perfect fit at the 4 spot as a backup to Trevor Brazile and someone that gets plenty of run. But against Team USA today, this guy, 19 points, 12 rebounds, and he gives off those Omer Norshad vibes. And started his career at Arkansas State and then Miami, and we know that Baylor. And this guy has just been a double machine. So the player today, Salipa, reminds me a bit of him. Not saying that when he goes to college, he's going to get double figures every game and average double figures scoring, double doubles in scoring and rebounds. But he's a guy that reminds me a little bit of when you look at his body, his height, and the way that he plays around the basket. Now, he's better ball handler and shooter on the perimeter than Norshad Omer. But I think he's the kind of player that wherever he goes is going to be able to plug and play immediately because of his physicality. I mean, just how well he played against the front line today for Team USA. Morris Johnson, who played a freshman season already at Illinois, was one of the starting big men on this team and had a good game. But you already have a player that's seasoned in college 1 year, now transferred to Michigan, that Salipa was matching up against and attacking around the basket. Koa Pete, who's been a big-time member off to Arizona, class of 2025, top 10 rated 5-star, had a big game today as well. He had a double-double too. But this is the kind of talent that Salipa was matching up with today and really put on a show. So I don't know what kind of traction Arkansas can get here, if this is a done deal already, but this would be a perfect type of player that would see immediate playing time and would factor into it and give you a 9 deep that you feel certain this far away from the season that you would have the guns to go 9 deep, 9 players in a 2 deep, in a true 2 deep, and he could help you at that 4 spot alongside Trevor Brazile. I'm not saying there's anything there yet. I'm saying I know Arkansas is impressed and has some curiosity about this player. Know that for a fact. So we kind of went through some of those guys. Team USA, I mentioned a couple of names: Morris Johnson, Koa Pete on the front line. They did an outstanding job today in tandem inside. Mikel Brown Jr., who we're going to see in Bud Walton Arena, the lead guard for Louisville, top 10 rated 5-star, ranked generally behind Darius Heacup Jr., who's a hog. I can't wait to see that matchup, but he is the lead guard for this U19 team. Remember, last summer, it was Team USA U19 that Acuff was the MVP for, and they went undefeated and won the gold in the FIBA event they played in last summer. This time, Acuff opts to come join the Razorbacks and start working on his college game and getting on the court even now with his college teammates and not taking part in this event. And so Mikel Brown Jr. has been handed the basketball. Really good game for him today. 10 points, 7 assists, 6 rebounds, was a box score plus 32. He did a pretty good job out there. But those are arguably the 2 top freshman point guards in the country, and we'll see that matchup again in the ACC-SEC Challenge, the midweek game, December 3rd. I can't wait for that. But outside of those guys, outside of those 3, and then A.J. DeBonsa, who's going to BYU, didn't shoot particularly well, made, I think, 3 of 10 or 3 of 12 from the field. He lived at the free throw line today, 12 of 15 there, so he did the job there. So he had 18 points, I believe. But outside of those 4 veteran guys that are either going to be college freshmen or, in the case of Morris Johnson, going to be a sophomore and has already transferred within the Big Ten from Illinois to Michigan, the next name here that stood out to me as starter value and was on the court was one of the 4 class of 2026 players. Everybody else is older on that 12-player roster for Team USA. And that was Jordan Smith Jr. out of Virginia. Tyron Stokes, the number 1 player in that class, on this team and played in this game. Brendan McCoy Jr., who has been a top 5 rated player out of Los Angeles, on this team and played in this game. Caleb Holt, another top 10 rated 5-star out of the Atlanta area, 6'5", 6'6", going to play his final season at Prolific Prep. I believe that was the school he announced for recently, transferring out of the Atlanta area. He's on Team USA and played in this game. But it was dominated. When you look at class of 2026, it was dominated today by Jordan Smith Jr., and this player continues to blow me away. Remember, several weeks ago, coming off the Nike EYBL session where I put eyes on him, Stokes, all these players multiple times, not Brandon McCoy Jr., he's not playing spring and summer, at least not to this point he hasn't, except for this opportunity, but not on the circuit. But after watching all these guys, I put out my top list. J.J. Andrews, number 1, obviously, because you've got him committed, you're going to get him signed. Of 5 guys, you would really, of 12 to 15 that you're casting a net, maybe these 5 you drill down on and really focus on. If you're only going to take 3 or 4, maybe you expand it to 5. But the 5 names started with J.J. Andrews, Tyron Stokes, because he's the number 1 guy. And then in that top 3, I had Jordan Smith Jr. And there's a good reason why. 26 minutes today, 4 of 9 from the field. He missed his 2 3-point attempts, but he finished with 8 points. And it's not the scoring. It's not the scoring. I'm giving his stats right now. 4 rebounds, 5 steals, 3 blocks, 2 assists, a box score +7 in those 26 minutes. To give you an idea, Tyron Stokes, Caleb Holt, and Brandon McCoy combined for 10 minutes of action today. 10 minutes. They got older guys, more developed guys right now, no matter what their talent levels are, that are taking care of business for Team USA, at least in game 1. But Jordan Smith Jr. was effectively one of the top 5 players for this team. And in this game, however you want to dice it up, but look at those stats. And I continue to make this comparison, and I believe this guy is a connector. He is a glue guy. He is relentless. He is fearless. He's a 50-50 ball warrior. He's a guy that's so damn hard to take off the court. He reminds me of Cason Wallace. You know, Calipari's second to last team at Kentucky before coming to Arkansas. Cason was a 5-star freshman, a fixture in that starting lineup, a 2-way player, and a reason why that Kentucky team, if you look at the 5 Kentucky teams in Calipari's final 5 years, one won the SEC and didn't have a postseason NCAA tournament because of COVID. The only other one that had any success was the team Cason Wallace was on. That team not only made the NCAA tournament and finished well in the SEC, but actually won a game. The only NCAA tournament win that Calipari enjoyed, and you know, when you look at the big dance in his last 5 years, Cason Wallace was on that team. This guy reminds me of Cason Wallace. Look at what Cason Wallace has done for a championship Oklahoma City Thunder team. Now just in year 2 in the NBA, one of their main guys, a regular starter or their 6th man. But this is who this guy reminds me of. You're not on the offensive end, very unselfish, plays the right way, makes the next pass, doesn't force a whole lot. He is a blur in transition. And so, but he's not one of those guys that's you know, snowbirding and trying to run out to get his points that way. He's playing his ass off on the defensive end. He's in the mix. His nose is in the fray. And then he just outruns everybody the other end when the possession changes. Whether it's a turnover, a missed shot, or whatever, he's beating everybody down. The motor is nonstop, the athleticism, the explosiveness. This is why I have Jordan Smith Jr. so high, even though there might be guys, when you look at a Jason Crow Jr., not saying that he wouldn't be worthy to come to Arkansas, or other 5-star guys that are more scorers. This guy is a complete A to Z winner. This is the kind of guy you want on the court. J.J. Andrews is that same kind of guy on the wing. You put this guy with J.J. Andrews, and it is scary. I don't care what the ratings are. I don't care who'll be making commercials later because of the hype and some of the offensive stuff. Those are you got one guy in J.J. Andrews who you can build around. You had a Jordan Smith Jr. I'm just telling you, it's over. You've got 2 guys that'll be hard to ever take off the court. Even as freshmen, they're going to play a lot and have kind of roles. Not sure where this is going with Arkansas. We know Jordan Smith Jr. has indicated he wants to visit Arkansas after Nike Peach Jam, and that's next month. It's coming right up, be the end of July, and then we see how soon after that plays out. But that's one of the destinations he's talked about in terms of visiting. But what a game for him today. I can't overstate it because he's not a guy, again, that's putting up a lot of points. But if you're paying attention to both ends of the floor, you just got to have that kind of player. I mean, so far, when you look at the older guys, they're going to be talked about more because of on this team and what they did today in terms of what they produced today, especially in the scoring column. But I thought Jordan Smith Jr. was outstanding. And man, I could bump him up to right behind JJ at this point. Not that you don't want Tyron Stokes, and you're trying to still get him in for a visit, and he has indicated he wants to visit Arkansas. The top player in that class, he's a do-it-all, can play multiple positions. He's a fantastic player. I'm not bumping him below this Jordan Smith Jr. in terms of quality of player based on a game, but in terms of, I have zero questions about Jordan Smith Jr. in terms of being ready immediately. He's got plus arm length at 6'2", 6'3". Again, he's explosive. He's strong. He battles for everything. I have zero question marks about him transitioning and being a major force at the high major level as a true freshman. Zero questions about it. Same with JJ. So no, I'm really putting emphasis on those points. It's only to say, man, don't worry about some of the stats and the scoring. Look at everything. Again, 8 points, 5 steals, 3 blocks at 6'2", 6'3". And I mean, he was blocking bigs around the basket, getting them in transition, getting them in the half court set. I mean, the steals and the blocks and just everything. He does a couple of assists, 4 rebounds. I mentioned that. And again, 3 points in 6 minutes. Caleb Holt played 6 minutes off the bench, most of that, I think, or maybe all of it in the first half. Same with Brandon McCoy. Team USA had, a couple of 20-plus point leads, and Australia would go on big runs and immediately get it down to 13, 12, 11 points. And so in the second half, Team USA just kind of kept the top 5 out there. I mean, to give you an example, Jasper Johnson, who'll be a freshman at Kentucky, 15 minutes today, 6 points for him. You looked at those other stats, not a whole lot there. I think he had a steal and an assist maybe. And he played 15 minutes. So when you look at that 2-guard spot, because Mikael Brown Jr. was playing most of the lead guard minutes, Jordan Mitchell Jr., out of that class of 2026, was the only one from that class to get major run. He was getting more minutes than the other guards that are headed to college and already should be on their campuses if not for this. Again, Jasper Johnson at Kentucky. J.J. Maniquit at Washington, going to be a freshman guard there. He got some run today, but again, Jordan Smith Jr. dominated the action there. So that's what I saw today. I know Arkansas's coaching staff. Here's another thing. This is another part of the intel for you. Not only is Arkansas there, but the 4 class of 2026 players that are there, well, I just went through the names, remain, each one of them, all 4 remain priority targets for Arkansas. So in other words, you say, well, didn't we already know that? Well, as time moves on, things change. Maybe you find out that a player's going to head over here, or you're really not in the mix, whatever. I can update you today and say Arkansas continues to prioritize all 4. So they don't feel like they're out of the mix for any of those 4. And certainly you feel good about a Jordan Smith Jr. if he truly, out of this group, he and Tyron Stokes are the 2 that have indicated, that they will visit Arkansas. And with Jordan Smith Jr., there's been a timeline out there. Holt has told me, and we put his interview out, that he'd like to visit Arkansas and was kind of waiting for head hog John Calipari to kind of maybe point that in that direction a little bit more here lately. So we'll see what comes of that. And some of the other high-level guys that I had in my top 5 outside of JJ, Jordan Smith Jr. and Tyron Stokes, were 2 frontline guys, a 3-4 combo in Christian Collins, who's teammates with Brandon McCoy Jr., by the way, at St. John Bosco out in L.A. Taj Ariza, also a top 5-star wing that teams up with Christian Collins in the Nike EYBLs for Oakland Soldiers, but also teammates with those guys at St. John Bosco. But Christian Collins is one I had in that top 5 when I gave that list out of who I would prioritize in addition to those 3. And then also the big 7'1", 285-pound center who's just blowing up this spring. Did in the spring, Arafan Diane out of Iowa United and plays on the Adidas circuit. So I go back to remind that top five just to say we're seeing some of these guys for Team USA. Now, Team USA plays France tomorrow. France defeated, this is group play right now. France had a big 25-point win over Cameroon. And there are a couple of prospects. There are more that we'll talk about in the next few days. But I'm going to single out two that play, one for France, one for Cameroon, that I'm told to keep an eye on by my international source. And we'll see what happens with either one of these guys in terms of, can you convince either one, if you want to fill this 15th and final roster spot, can you convince either one maybe to go ahead and do it now and come and be part of the 2025 group? I'm told that's not likely to happen with at least one of these guys, but you just never know because it's John Calipari in Arkansas. But Talis Sulak, Talis is the first name. Sulak, Soulhac with France. Really good game today in that win over Cameroon. 24 minutes, 16 points. He was 5 of 9 from the field, made all 6 of his free throws. He did miss both of his 3-point attempts, but 4 assists, 4 steals, and a rebound. I'm told that he's likely that he is a college. At some point, he's a candidate to play college basketball in the U.S. Probably not this year. I'm going to wait and be a part of that 2026 class. But he's eligible to come over now. That's the point. And so when you're putting eyes on these guys, you're over there. What kind of inroads are you making with players? What kind of interest level could drive you to the point of trying to convince them to come over and be a part of your squad now? Again, Arkansas seems like it's pretty settled at the backcourt. Sulak's a 6'3" guard. He is a backcourt player for 2025, but he's a name to keep an eye on, whether it's now or class of 2026. For Cameroon, a 7'1" center, Amadou, first name Amadou, last name I'm going to butcher. I'm just going to spell it first. Seini, Sini or Saini, but a 7'1" center for Cameroon, played in the Italy Pro League last year. He's 18 years old, but today for Cameroon, 16 minutes, 4 points, 6 rebounds, 3 steals, and a block. Another player I'm told to keep an eye on in terms of interest in playing college basketball in the U.S. Arkansas has staff member over there, and it's not just that these players have interest in coming over and playing. They'd be good enough to do it. And there's a lot of these international teams playing in this FIBA U19 that have players that are already states bound for teams as freshmen this coming season. I mean, a bunch. France has 4, but this Tali Sulak is not one of those. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing his name correctly either, but that's just a couple of more prospects to keep an eye on. Let's see where Arkansas goes with it. I'll have more in terms of more names. I have some of them already, but I'm going to kind of space these out in the next couple of episodes. Again, the Team USA plays France tomorrow at 1 o'clock Eastern time. You can check these out on the FIBA U19 live channel on YouTube. That's where I watched today's Team USA win over Australia. So many good players. Again, most of Team USA already spoken for, but those 4 players, Arkansas continues to prioritize all 4. All right, we're nearly 23 minutes in. Thank you for joining me on HogvilleNet YouTube Live. Just to recap real quick, Roman Sulipa for Australia, keep an eye on him. A 6'7", 230-pound combo forward would be a perfect fit for this final Arkansas roster. Maybe he's already spoken for it. It's Pitt, maybe somebody else. And then a couple of names for France and Cameroon. And for France, the 6'3" guard, Talis Sulak, and for Cameroon, the 7'1" center, Amadou Sini. And we'll have more on the international stuff tomorrow. We're probably going to come back on later in the afternoon after that Team USA France game. That's going to be a big one. Let's see how that shakes out. That'll be another big challenge for this U19 Team USA squad. All right, let's talk scheduling real quick. This is something I've been hearing since last year. Arkansas obviously couldn't get it on the schedule. They only had 4 high majors on the schedule last year. We've heard as many as 6 so far for the non-con when we've gone through those. But one that's been out there, and I've been getting more and more information about this, I'm just not certain if it's going to happen, if it's likely to happen, or if it's something that gets pushed out again to maybe start up next year. And it's the first time I've heard of a 3-game setting for non-conference in consecutive years since Arkansas played Oklahoma, now in the SEC, but played those neutral site games in Tulsa back-to-back years under the previous coaching staff. And we know Arkansas won 1 out of those 3 and all three were neutral site non-conference games in December. But Gonzaga is back in the talk, back in the mix in terms of could the Zags be on the schedule, the Bulldogs, in the upcoming season? And I've heard this two different ways as what it might look like. That it may be in year one, which would be this year since you couldn't get it done last year, that you'd get Gonzaga as an exhibition foe at Bud Walton Arena. And then that would start 3 consecutive years, be the first of 3 years where you play home and away the next 2 seasons. I've also heard it where they may be trying to set up, they're really maybe trying to establish a neutral site game this year and then play home and away the following 2 years. So it's a couple of ways maybe that's being talked about going. Again, I don't have enough intel to say that this is a locked in opponent, but it might be heading that way, or it might be heading that way, but just not to start this year. And then you have the question marks again about, is it really a 3-year kind of deal? Is it exhibition game and neutral site game plus home and aways? So which of those? So a lot of questions there. But yeah, it's interesting. In the final season that Calipari was at Kentucky, Gonzaga was on the schedule and they played in February. It was a non-conference game played in February. And you continue to see some of these non-conference matchups being reported recently that are going to be played later in the season for other teams, other high major opponents hooking up in February in the middle of their conference play, or even kind of toward the end of it. When you look, from that standpoint, depends on when you play in February. But several things are interesting here because Calipari's got that relationship with Mark Few, and I know because I've been hearing it for over a year now, that there's been conversation. I've got enough source information to say they've been efforting something there. It's just, where does it land? And if you do get him, for a neutral site, let's say it's this year, would you play it later in the year? Because you're pretty much loading up, and you certainly have loaded up in December against high majors. We haven't seen the dates yet for Michigan State on the road or Baylor, and I'll talk a little bit about Baylor here in a second. And we're assuming if those are both in play, that those are going to be in November, because at the end of November, Thanksgiving weekend holiday, that's going to kind of then push you into December once that's finished. You've got Duke in Chicago on a made-for-TV CBS Sports national television game, and then December 3rd, I mentioned Louisville. That's a midweek game. Louisville and Arkansas in the ACC SEC Challenge in Bud Walton Arena, and then 10 days later on a Saturday, you've got that's the date that you've got. God, I've gone blank here. Texas Tech in Dallas on December 10th. That's a Saturday. The following Saturday, that's the 13th, December 13th, which is a Saturday, Texas Tech in Dallas. Then the following Saturday, 7 days later, December 20th, Brooklyn, Barclays Center, and we know that opponent is Houston. So you've got a lot of high majors already in December. You've got some dates you can work with there. But if you're getting Gonzaga, would it be one where you'd play that in November? If it's not an exhibition game, that would obviously be most likely late October. If it's not neutral site, would that be February? Would you play a home game? Start at home and away. If you started it that way, maybe you do home and away and then a neutral. I don't know how it would work out, but you could also do that later in the calendar in the middle of league play somewhere. So it's very interesting to talk about that. Baylor, I continue to wonder, is that game Fayetteville, Bud Walton Arena? Is it going to be the North Little Rock game? And we've talked about why I wonder about that. Because when Calipari talked about it at the one Razorback Roadshow event here in Little Rock, 5 or 6 weeks ago, he spoke to the fans after he met with the media. So we didn't get a follow-up with him once he spoke about this. But he told the fans in there, and we heard it, but we'll have Baylor here this season. So what does that mean? Here, he was in the Little Rock area. Was he talking about the annual game in North Little Rock? Did he mean here as in Arkansas, which is a home game at Bud Walton? Wasn't clear. I don't think he's spoken about it since. And so we've speculated. A lot of people think it's just a given. It's going to be in Fayetteville. But you played them on a neutral court last year in Dallas, in-state, closer to the campus of Baylor and Waco than you were Arkansas's campus. Maybe you play it in a neutral site that's technically, the way that the net rankings and RPI and all that calculated, it's a home game for Arkansas, but it wouldn't be on the campus. It may be in North Little Rock at Simmons Bank Arena. Arkansas has played Baylor in that arena before, years ago, before they really kind of made a pattern of playing mid-majors there. Last year, it was in-state UCA. So that's also an interesting dynamic here because I pushed back on the staff in my recent conversation within the last 24 hours. Which is it? And there is still some uncertainty about some of the details with that game, I was told. That was it. Didn't get the details on what the uncertainty points are, only that there may be some stuff that's still not clear about that. So there's that. And so that's a bit of intel for you because that's kind of what staff gave me back when I asked. So that's kind of, two important things. If you get Gonzaga, that's big time, man. I mean, look who you're already playing. We've gone through those games, all 6 high majors. If you're counting Baylor, some details still uncertain, so we'll see what happens there. But Baylor at Michigan State, obviously Duke, and then you get into December and you're talking about Louisville, Texas Tech, Houston. A couple of those games in state, if not both at Bud Walton Arena. When you count Louisville, certainly at Bud Walton, maybe Baylor. We'll see about that. A couple of neutral site games when you look at Duke and Texas Tech and Houston. I guess all of those are. And then a road game again at Michigan State. So you've got sort of a blend there of home, away, and neutral, and throwing Gonzaga on top of that. Again, let's see if it's an exhibition game. It would be in line with what Arkansas's done the previous 2 years under 2 different coaching staffs. Purdue 2 years ago, #1 preseason ranked Kansas last year. And you saw how that went. It went really well for charity exhibition. You've already got a murderer's row in non-con plus this SEC, which we know is brutal. Is Gonzaga really in the mix? Because if it's a regular season game this year, whether it's home, away, or neutral, and it's not exhibition, that gets you to 7 high majors and non-con and leaves you with 6 mid-majors. We already have reported here that Arkansas is expected to host UCA back in Bud Walton Arena after playing that game here in Central Arkansas last year. All right, nearly 32 minutes in. I'm Kevin McPherson. That's it. We had several pieces of intel, player intel, Arkansas's coaching staff, where they are. Kenny Payne, associate head coach. I was told we expected to be in Atlanta this weekend for a live eval Scholastic event. We know Caleb Holtz with Team USA in Switzerland. Typically, he might be playing in that area this weekend in the Atlanta area, given that that's where he's from. So you just never know about some of the other moves and places that Arkansas coaches might be at this weekend. We'll see if we're able to put some of that out as we move forward into Sunday and Monday. But for now, thank you for joining me on HogvilleNET YouTube Live. Please hit subscribe, like, and share. We appreciate you here. We hope you like the content. Until next time, I don't think anything will break where I have to come live today. I do plan to be back on tomorrow, no later than Monday, but probably back on tomorrow after Team USA plays France, and we'll go through some more players and performances. But until next time, thanks for being here. We appreciate all of you. See you soon.